So we discovered the first Yosegaki Hinomaru, and we understood that what we were looking at was someone, a fallen Japanese service member, and that this flag really did not belong in our collection and it had to find its way home. Early on in our meetings with Rex and Keiko with the OBON Society, Rex made a comment about the flags have a spirit to them, and sometimes those spirits call out. So when we found the first one, basically we thought, this flag wants to go home. And then when we discovered the second flag, we realized this person wants to go home too. And then as recently as a few days ago, we discovered the third flag. This was something that was signed by this individual's family members and friends and sent off with them to war and was on their possession whenever and wherever they fell.
This could potentially be the closest that a family would have to the closure of receiving back the remains of their loved one. So it's very important to us that we're able to do the right thing and get it back to that family. It was just a week after I found out what a Yosegaki Hinomaru was when I found one in the collection, and I said it was so serendipitous. And they told me that their belief is that it was not serendipity, it was the soul of that person knowing that I knew what it was and that I'd be able to help him get home. Is giving me goosebumps, and I'm so excited for this process and to be a part of something so special.
Let us pray that peace be now restored to the world, and that God will preserve it always.
Well, the ceremony that happened right outside on September 2nd, 1945 was a ceremony not of vengeance or victory, but one of peace and reconciliation. And the ceremony that occurred is just a continuation of that, continuation of our efforts to promote peace between Japan and the United States, but also to recognize that this ship is not a symbol of war, but a symbol of peace. And we hope that that's the message that all of our visitors take home with us every day.
For all of us who can relate and had families who served in the military or lost family who served in the military, the weight of the responsibility of making sure that these flags are treated respectfully and repatriated back to Japan was impressed upon both of us really, really quickly.
The things that I learned about my grandfather when I received all of his belongings, he loved everybody. He was friends with everybody. My mother and my grandmother were on their way. He had never met his only daughter yet. She was a month old. During the attack in Pearl Harbor, in the 12 minutes that it took the Oklahoma to capsize, he went down 3 times, bringing men up to safety. Even when they were saying abandon ship, he was going down, and he went down a 4th time, and then he was never seen again after that. My grandfather was so young, he died 4 days before his 21st birthday. I think my grandfather would be very proud of what I'm doing with OBON Society. Watching the Japanese family receive their loved ones, Yosegaki Hinomaru, it just struck me that, wow, this is just as important as when I received physical remains back of my grandfather. It was an honor and just an amazing experience to be able to do that a year after burying my grandfather.
My grandfather was a farmer in the rural area in Japan, and then he was one day drafted into the war, and then ended up he was disappeared in Burma, and he never came home. When I grew up, I didn't know anything about grandfather or World War II, not much, except the time when we go to OBON season to pray for the ancestor. 62 years later, my grandfather's Yosegaki Hinomaru came home, and my mother and all of us are so shocked. So she is a strong spirit of the grandfather. He wanted to come home to see the family. So she was crying and she was touched grandfather's flag and saying, "Grandfather finally came home." It's meant to be all of us today to be here, have the Hawaii blessing ceremony. Those men who is speaking to not only me, you, all of us, I want to go home.
OBON Society was just an idea that Keiko and I had to try to bring more miracles to more Japanese families by returning the only existing remains back to the families. This idea that started blooming from both sides, both the desire of the Japanese to receive them and the desire of the Americans to give them. Because again, this ship is known as the place of surrender to the Japanese nation. And now this demonstrates this transformation of the hearts and feelings of not just the people of the Missouri, but really representing all of America. These are the most precious flags of all that we have ever received.